Hello, I am William M. Skretny, Chief Judge for the United States District Court, Western District of New York. And along with my colleague, Richard J. Arcara, District Judge, we welcome you. On Monday, November 28, 2011, our new United States Courthouse, located on historic Niagara Square in Buffalo, New York, opened for business to the Western District of New York community. Just prior to opening our doors to the public, our federal family held a brief ceremony which included a ribbon cutting and raising of the American flag. The official dedication of the building, which was held in conjunction with the General Services Administration, took place on Thursday afternoon, May 3, 2012. We were pleased to welcome members of our federal family, local, state, and federal dignitaries, and most importantly, invited guests from the Western New York community. What follows is a recording of that dedication ceremony for the soon-to-be-named Robert H. Jackson Courthouse at 2 Niagara Square in Buffalo. Please enjoy this special event with us.
All rise! The United States District Court for the Western District of New York is now in session. The Honorable William M. Skretny, Chief Judge, presiding. Oyez! 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 All persons having business before this honorable court are admonished to draw near and give their attention, for the court is now sitting. God save the United States in this honorable court.
Good afternoon, everyone. Would everyone please be seated for the presentation of the colors?
Allen! 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 Allen!
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What so proudly we hailed.
Will everyone now be seated for the retiring of the colors?
Colors! 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 Colors!
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Denise Pease, and I am the Regional Administrator for the General Services Administration for the Northeast and Caribbean region. Thank you for coming here this afternoon. Let me begin by saying thank you to the Niagara Falls Air Base Honor Guard and to our wonderful vocalist ensemble of the Buffalo Academy for the Visual and Performing Arts, directed by George Davis. Could we please give them a round of applause? On behalf of President Barack Obama and the United States General Services Administration, it is indeed my pleasure to welcome you to the dedication ceremony of this beautiful new United States Courthouse in Buffalo, New York. It is an important event, not just for GSA, but also for the city of Buffalo, the federal courts, and the people of the Western District of New York. GSA is pleased that we were able to partner with the city of Buffalo and assist with the city's revitalization efforts, because that is something that is very important to us at GSA, that we work closely with the cities and help the cities to become stronger. We are proud of this new courthouse has achieved LEED Gold certification from the United States Green Builders Council. The Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design certification recognizes the significant sustainable and energy efficient aspects of this new courthouse. Across our region, we are seeking LEED certifications, as well as Energy Star labels for our federal buildings and courthouses. When our buildings are more efficient, they use less energy, and we save taxpayer dollars. And GSA is pleased that through our art and architecture program, we are also able to contribute to Buffalo's rich history of art with the work of Robert Manigault, a native of this area. The work now graces the pavilion of the new courthouse. I want to take this opportunity to thank the members of our General Service Administration project team. There were a number of GSA employees who worked very hard on this project to bring this building to completion for our federal courts and the people of Buffalo. Our team members, except for Tom King, could not be here today, but they are watching this ceremony remotely from our offices in New York City, so hi, GSA family. I want to thank our private sector partners on the project, especially Bill Pedersen and the folks from Cohn, Pedersen, and Fox, the architects of this beautiful new building. Cannon Design, our construction manager, and Mascaro Construction, the general contractor, and the staff of the court, who have worked so hard on this courthouse project. Throughout history, the federal courthouse has been a physical symbol of our nation's government and communities across the nation. Our courthouses personify the pursuit of justice in the name of the people and the protection of individual freedom. We at GSA commissioned this courthouse to stand for many generations as a symbol of renewed commitment to the principles of which the federal judiciary stands. Federal judges, I must tell you, are GSA's most demanding customers. Federal judges are demanding, and they pay us a high compliment for believing that the quality of our work in architecture and construction is important in determining how well they do their work. Chief Judge Skretny of Buffalo has been the key overseer, as well as a wonderful partner in this courthouse project. That's only as you would expect from that wonderful jurist, of a man who has served for 6 years in the National Federal Judiciary Building Committee. Judge Richard Arcara and Judge Skretny have been extremely effective in effective advocates in Region 2 and in Washington, D.C., in bringing home this beautiful federal courthouse to Buffalo, New York. GSA is proud to dedicate this building with the court, and I am proud to introduce at this time the Honorable William Skretny, Chief Judge of the Western District of New York. Ladies and gentlemen, Judge William Skretny.
Thank you very much, Denise, for those very, very gracious welcoming remarks, and for fostering a relationship of mutual respect between the General Services Administration, GSA, and our Western District of New York Court. It's a genuine honor for me, on behalf of our judges and our federal court staff, to also welcome all of you here to this dedication this afternoon, the dedication of our magnificent, magnificent new courthouse. Now, time's not going to permit me, in my remarks, to justly recognize the many key individuals involved in this new courthouse project. That daunting task is reserved for Judge Arcara. But suffice it to say, in every direction that I look, I see the faces of individuals who make up the project team and whose passion made the dream of a new courthouse a reality. Each person passionately gave of themselves to make this building, as we call it, rise on the square. And nobody more prominently, perhaps, than my longtime colleague, Judge Richard Arcara, who was indefatigable during the roller coaster ride we took together in seeing the courthouse project through to fruition, deserves accolade after accolade. Judge Arcara. You're eating into my time. All right. You know, we had a team, and our team's great passion for this project was rooted in the collective understanding that we were entrusted not only with the public purse, but with the public perception of justice. With the public purse, we, along with GSA, dedicated ourselves to be responsible stewards of public monies, ever cognizant of the duties owed to taxpayers. I think you will agree that we built an enduring symbol of the law that will glimmer in the city center for the next century and beyond. And we did it largely on budget and reasonably on time. As to the public perception of justice, all you need to do is stand in Niagara Square and look north to see the genius of our design architect, William Pedersen, and his team at Cohen, Pedersen, and Fox, which captured the openness and the transparency that is the cornerstone of our federal system of justice. The courthouse is a place where the rule of law is created and respected. It is a place where we judges work, where lawyers work, and where any person, no matter his or her nationality, religion, race, or station in life, can come seeking justice and receive it. Our speakers today, they're going to extol the virtues of this courthouse, and well, they should. There is really so much to admire. But not to be lost in that discussion is the effect a building of this prominence has on the hearts and minds of the people of our community. For that is where the rule of law truly resides. Respect for the rule of law is the foundation of our great nation, and it is nurtured here virtually every single day in this magnificent building. As Winston Churchill once said, we shape our buildings and afterwards our buildings shape us. When a person comes here, the rule of law is instilled in them. It permeates these very surroundings. You can feel it when you stand in the entrance pavilion, engulfed in the 4,543 words of the United States Constitution. You could see it embodied in our judges who labor over the important decisions of the day each and every day. And you can sense it in the employees, district court, probation, court security officers, U.S. Marshal Service, and the GSA and our maintenance personnel who work tirelessly day in and day out in the service of justice. Ladies and gentlemen, what is so very important about this courthouse is that it belongs to no one in particular. Yes, it is our courthouse, but it is also your courthouse. It is truly everyone's courthouse. And it is with these foundational precepts in mind that we today dedicate our soon-to-be named, thanks to both Senator Schumer and Congressman Higgins, Robert H. Jackson United States Courthouse. And we do so in a significant dual sense. First, we celebrate with great pride and joy this magnificent building. But much deeper than that, we reaffirm our commitment to the rule of law, and we dedicate our energies wholly and earnestly to that noble pursuit. Thank you. Now, that wasn't a speaker speech. Here's where we start the speaker speeches. Our first speaker, Chief Circuit Judge Dennis Jacobs. Judge Jacobs is the highly respected leader of the judges of this circuit. We are the Second Circuit, one of 11. He is the consummate professional, always a gentleman, and an acknowledged architect buff in his own right. Frankly, we would not have these wonderful dedication events without his guidance, support, and his lending us Karen Milton, the circuit executive. Chief Judge Jacobs.
The dedication of any courthouse is a great civic event. This is one of the last federal courthouses of our generation that is likely to come to completion. There are maybe half a dozen in the pipeline, and after that, there's no pipeline. This building is the fruit of the Design Excellence program implemented many years ago, and that elevated federal courthouse buildings to a level commensurate with their high purpose. Before that program was implemented, federal courthouse architecture had degenerated into a series of sterile boxes or suburban banks. I care about this because, as Chief Judge Skretny mentioned, I am an architecture buff. On an earlier occasion of this kind, Senator Moynihan, who had much to do with that design program, pointed out that in Europe, the symbol of government has been the palace and the Parliament building, but that in America, the traditional symbol of government has been the courthouse, and one can be found in a dominant place in the civic center of every small town and all the great cities. As a symbol of government, benign and fair, this Buffalo courthouse is exemplary. It occupies a great corner on the central square of this city, and from there it commands views of the city itself, the vastness of New York State beyond, the Great Lake, and the mist rising from the cataract. And the business that will be conducted here is reflected in the building's glassed, open, welcome face, and in its logical elegance. It is a landmark for our courts and a strong affirmation of the vitality of this community, this city, and the Western District of New York. The wheels are turning for this building to be named for Justice Robert Jackson. Rarely could a building be so happy in its dedication. There are great works that are named for people who lapsed into obscurity or were minor figures to begin with, people who live only in a name. I work at Foley Square in Manhattan. Who is Foley? Then there are considerable public figures who are remembered by works that are not first rate. Think of the Dewey Thruway. Senator Jacob Javits had the misfortune of having his name attached to the Javits Convention Center, which I understand will soon be torn down, and to the egregious 1960s federal building at 26 Federal Plaza, across the street from where I work, designed by an architect named Poor. My elementary school in Manhattan was named for Emily Dickinson, a great poet. But my old school building was unworthy of her. It's a pedestrian building, typical of its time. So it is a rare and happy occasion when it appears that a splendid building will be dedicated to a figure who is well remembered for excellence decades after his passing and who has a very good claim on posterity. I was a graduate student in English before I went to law school, and I admired Justice Jackson because he wrote a pointed, muscular prose bristling with wit and purpose. We will hear much more about Justice Jackson tomorrow. For today, it's enough to remark upon what looks to be the fortunate coming together of a great figure and a great building on a great site. It's a joy to a building to be named for an admirable figure. And now, at this dedication, let's honor all who will work here and enter here. The lawyers who will win and lose and settle on the steps. The litigants who will get justice, revenge, or grief. The prosecutors and the defenders. The convicted and the acquitted. The victims who are aggrieved and the defendants who seek parsimony. The insider traders, spies, racketeers, and defrauders by mail and wire. The conspirators and co-conspirators, named and unnamed, the witnesses who remember and those who don't, the jurors, those who are called, those who serve, and those with good excuses, the immigrants who will become citizens here, our landlord, GSA, those who will maintain and clean this building for decades to come, the marshals, the CSOs, the SSOs, the clerks of court, and the case managers, the librarians, the administrators, the IT people, the generations of elbow law clerks, secretaries and judicial assistants, the interns, court reporters, spectators, school kids and law students, and the judges all. These halls will welcome us. Thank you.
Now hear from Circuit Judge Richard Wesley, who has chamber space available to him on the 10th floor of our new courthouse.
The elevators only go to 9, so that tells you something. And to whom we as a court are indebted for his critical work behind the scenes in sustaining support and the means for this wonderful, wonderful courthouse project. Judge Wesley.
Thank you very much, Chief Judge Skretny. When Chief Judge Skretny called and asked if I would speak, I was quite flattered. Now I realize that I'm kind of like the judicial interlude as opposed to the musical interlude. He reminded me that I should keep it short. Never in my life have I given a speech where the following speakers are going to be a former chief judge, a United States senator, and a congressman. I feel like the fellow out in Leicester, New York, whose truck got stopped on the railroad tracks and the 5 p.m. gee-whiz railroad was bearing down on him. Brief and focused I must be. Senator, it's good to see you again. Senator Schumer, I want to personally convey to you my deep appreciation for your support of me 9 years ago. A different environment, I think, than perhaps some of my judicial colleagues meet today, and I want to publicly acknowledge the appreciation I have for your support back then. Congressman Higgins, Congressman Hochul, U.S. Attorney Hochul. Hochul seems to be like a magic name here in Buffalo. Ambassador Joya. We've got quite a distinguished crowd here today. When I first came to the federal bench in June of 2003, I was given this beautiful set of chambers by Circuit Executive Milton on the 4th floor. The soot from 9/11 gathered on the desk every day. I was told that's what happens when you're the junior judge. I wanted to go back to Albany. But very shortly on in my stay at the federal courthouse, I got a call from my dear friend Richard Arcara and Bill Skretny. And they had a problem with regard to the courthouse. And it was my first introduction to the courthouse. And in 9 years of federal service, occasionally we've had additional conversations. No two people, not always pleasant. No two people have dedicated themselves more to a public gathering place than these two individuals. And it is hard for anyone to appreciate the myriad difficulties that they encountered, and their singleness of purpose and their commitment to this community to build a place that would last is laudable, and we should all appreciate it. 3 years ago, Chief Judge Jacobs and I got the great idea that we would come to Buffalo and hold a term of the Second Circuit here. Judge Jacobs lost his briefs, his legal briefs, excuse me. You know, I thought my law clerks would catch that. Sorry, Judge. Thought it would be wise if we came and held a term of court here, and we had a magnificent time and enjoyed the architecture of the former courthouse, still courthouse. But Richard was filled with enthusiasm about his new courthouse, and we came over and we walked around and took a look, and you could tell that he was very proud of what was going on and what he thought would be accomplished. I want to add one additional name to the thanks. I had the great pleasure to sit on the Buildings and Security Committee, the National Committee, for a number of years, and I had the great honor to serve with Ross Eisman, who is the head of the AO, the administrative office for there. Buffalo has no better friend in the administrative office than Ross Eisman. He did a terrific job ironing out all the kinks and trying to make this project work. And so, Ross, I publicly acknowledge all the great work you did for this courthouse. I think that great nations should build great buildings. And this building is a testament to us as a great nation of many faiths, of many colors, of many political perspectives. We are indeed a great and free nation, and the greatness of that nation is represented by the buildings that we build. We should think large, and we should think grand, because generations from now, we will all be gone. But young children and young and new citizens will come to this courthouse and realize that this is indeed a nation of great people with great ideas and a great commitment to liberty and to freedom. Thank you very, very much for having me.
We will now hear from the former chief judge of this district and the man who was no shrinking violet when it came to his passion and tenacity for ensuring the quality and integrity of this building's construction, and for achieving its rightful resting place in the city of Buffalo. My partner, friend, and colleague, Judge Richard J. Arcara.
Well, thank you very much. Bill, it's been a long, long journey, but it's finally over, and it was worth it. All those days, hours that we spent in New York and Washington, tasting all those restaurants that we had. It was terrific. Chief Judge Jacobs, Judge Wesley, Chief Judge Skretny, fellow judges, Senator Schumer, Congressman Higgins, Congressman Hochul, Mayor Brown, and friends of the court. Welcome to the dedication of our new United States Courthouse in Buffalo, New York. I'm sure you can appreciate that this beautiful building was not the effort of a few people, but many hundreds of people who worked very hard to see that it was finally completed. It took a tremendous amount of work, effort, and commitment over 15 years to put all these pieces together. If this was a project in the private sector, I'm sure it would have taken a lot less time. But because it involved the expenditure of public funds, there are many safeguards that had to be followed to ensure that the taxpayers get the best value for their dollars. And I think we've accomplished this. As I've said, this successful project involved the commitment of many people. And my job today is to mention just a few. This is certainly not in any way meant to diminish the hard work of those not mentioned, and it would take me for the rest of the day if I mentioned everyone. Senator Schumer has been a champion of this project since day one and was instrumental in obtaining the necessary funding for this new courthouse. Simply put, without his drive and determination, this project would not have happened. Congressman Higgins has also been a strong champion of this project. At one point, when the project hit a roadblock in Congress, Congressman Higgins cast a key vote to keep the project alive and moving forward. His tireless advocacy has made the project a success, and we thank you, Senator and Congressman. Ross Eiselman, sitting right in the front row here, Assistant Director of Space and Facilities of the Administrative Office of the United States Courts. He kept a watchful eye on our project, and whenever we needed assistance, he was there to help us. Ross ensured that we had a real partnership with the AO on this project. Anil Jain, who was the Program Manager of the Administrative Office for U.S. Courts. One of the most important contributions that Ross made to the project was to assign Anil as our Program Manager and liaison on this project. Anil was indispensable in helping us design the courthouse and more particularly the courtrooms. Neil has to be one of the foremost authorities on courtroom design in the country, and we were very fortunate to have him working on this project. Chief Judge Jacobs has been in our corner throughout this process and has always supplied us whatever assistance that we needed. Karen Milton, who's the circuit executive. Karen was a tremendous asset to the court team. Her experience in construction and space-related matters was invaluable. She was hands-on, attending our judges' meetings and making the trek to Buffalo whenever we needed her, and boy did we need her. Let me tell you, she is one human dynamo, and she is one person who you want on your side all the time. You don't want to be on her other side. She's also right in the front row over here. Scott Tiemann and Christian Sandel will provide our court team with significant technical expertise and experience in courthouse construction. One or both of them attended all our construction meetings, provided useful insight and assistance. Denise Pease, the regional administrator we've heard from earlier, and Joanna Rosado, Public Building Service Regional Commissioner, provided great leadership on this project. In particular, when we encountered a condensation problem, which I'm sure many of you heard about, when we encountered this problem near the end of the project, they quickly brought in the necessary experts to help resolve the problem and bring it to successful resolution. This courthouse is a real GSA success story, and it's a credit to Denise, Joanna, and the entire GSA team. Alan Berman, who was the branch chief, Design and Construction Division of GSA. Alan played a key role in helping us form our initial team and provided us with great advice and expertise during the course of the project. Alan always acted in our best interests of the project and the court throughout its entire process. Arnold Feinstein and Thomas King, the project manager of GSA. Arnold was the initial GSA project manager, did an excellent job in getting the project started. When Arnold resigned in 2010, he was replaced by Tom King. Tom quickly learned all about the project and did a wonderful job bringing the project to completion while not sacrificing any quality. There were many other GSA team members who made substantial contributions to this successful project, and I will not list them, but we will remember them. Bill Pedersen from KPF, Tone Pedersen and Fox. What do you say about one of the world's greatest renowned architects? He had a design that was truly added another important chapter to the city of Buffalo's architectural legacy. The Buffalo News had described it as a, quote, jewel on Niagara Square, and we couldn't agree more. It's a tremendous addition to downtown Buffalo and something we can all be proud of. Bill has designed beautiful buildings throughout the world, including at least 3 other courthouses and the Buffalo Airport. Bill was very easy to work with. He always took our comments and concerns to heart. It was a wonderful experience that Bill Skretny and I had in working with Bill Pedersen. They say that architects are very difficult to deal with. Not Bill Pedersen. He's easier to deal with than federal judges. Jerry Smith, who is a senior designer for KPF. Jerry worked very closely with Bill on this wonderful design. Jerry was a real problem solver when issues arose during the design process regarding the functionality and the aesthetics of this beautiful building. Lori Butler and Kevin Wegner, they were project managers for KPF. Lori was KPF's initial project manager of the project. Lori's #1 goal was to produce a quality product. Her laser-like focus on quality control got the project off to a great start and resulted in a high-quality building you see here today. When Lori left for another professional opportunity, Kevin took over as the project manager and did a great job in working with the team to bring the project to completion. Mascaro Construction Company from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. John Mascaro, Annie Beeman, and Mike King. In addition to the great architecture, we had a great general contractor for this job. Mascaro's motto was, quote, build with the best, and we believe is what we did here today. John and Andy and Mike exhibited tremendous leadership on this project. When problems arose, they tackled them aggressively and got the job done. Quality was always, quote, job one, end quote. With them, the results show. We would build again with these guys in a minute, gentlemen. However, I'm not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. We had some words from time to time during the football season and the Sabres season. Mike Renda, who was the project manager, and Joe Sternabord, who was the project supervisor. We sincerely believe that we could not have had a better project manager on this project than Mike Renda. Mike knew this project backwards and forwards. At any given moment, could tell you the exact status of the project. He did just an amazing job. While Mike managed the project, Joe was the guy on the ground, making the things happen. Joe was easy to work with. He was a stickler when it came to producing a quality project. Cannon Design, the construction manager, Eric Sweet and Jim Zebler. We were very fortunate to have this great construction management team on the project from Cannon. Eric Smith was Cannon's project principal assigned to the project and was instrumental in the project receiving Gold Lead rating, the first government building in GSA Region 2 to receive this distinction. I just wish the water would stay on when you're washing your hands. And the lights would stay on when you're in the bathroom and you don't move for a couple of minutes. That's all part of the lead. Still got to get used to that, folks. And some hot water once in a while wouldn't be bad either. Jim Zibler led a great project team which included Mike Brzezowski, Brad Tober, Kelly Maloney, and Dan Sherry. Their attention to detail resulted in a high-quality building. We would like to thank Tom D., who's involved with the waterfront right now, and David McLeod, the principals assigned to the project, for their assistance. We had good fortune we had a court architect, Joe O'Donnell. The AO provided us with funding for a court architect, and Joe's expertise and experience were invaluable in assisting us to understand and appreciate the technical issues and problems as they arose. Rod Early and Mike Roemer. Rod Early was a former clerk. Mike Roemer is the person that scared you to death when we all walked in here this morning. At least he scared me. Ron was involved in the initial hard work in getting the project going. When Ron retired, Mike Roemer took his place and led the court team through completion of the building and the tremendous move into this building from the old building. There were other, obviously, members of the court team. Don Schubert is a general building manager. Don actually works for GSA, but we really view him as part of our court team. Don worked together with the court team during construction and has worked extremely hard, putting in many late hours to get the building in shape for us to move in. Robert Mangold, gentleman sitting in the front row right in front of me. We want to thank him for his beautiful colored glass panels that adorn our entry pavilion. If you don't already know Mr. Mangold, he's a renowned artist and is originally from North Tonawanda. And we were very fortunate that he was able to participate in this project and putting a beautiful piece of art in our pavilion. We also want to thank the committee that selected the artist, Robert Mangold, including Molly Donovan, who is the Associate Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art in the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. And a special tribute to Joe Goodell, who will be remembered for his art expertise and vision in selecting Robert Mangold. Last but not least, I want to take a second here and recognize and congratulate my dear friend, our colleague, Judge Michael Teleska, who is sitting right over there next to Mike Roemer, who is a former chief judge and is celebrating today his 30th year on the federal bench. He was also had an integral part in getting the initial approval for our courthouse, and has made a significant contribution to this area. You know, one of the things about Judge Teleska is that over the years, he has received so many awards. They used to have a building named after him right in the center of Rochester, and he is one of the most distinguished members of that community. I remember about 5 or 6 years ago, he was receiving the University of New York Distinguished Alumnus Award, and I had to say a few words. I said, geez, you know, who is this guy, Teleska? He's got all these awards. I think I'm going to make a chart. In the chart, I'm going to list all the awards that Judge Teleska has earned over the years. And then I'm going to put on the other side of the chart the awards that I made. Well, he had about 35, 38 awards, and I just said, my God, how could anybody do that? So once I undertook this, I decided, well, I better complete the project. So I put my awards on the other side. In 1949, I won the Camper of the Year Award at Camp in Lake Simcoe, Ontario. That was all I had on the right side of the chart. Certainly, Judge Teleska is one of the terrific jurists that we have in our community. We're so fortunate. He's now a senior judge, and he is doing so much work for us, and we hope that he's around for another 30 years. With that, Judge Skretny, I guess if anybody I forgot, let me know. I had to make sure that I got everybody that I could think that was appropriate. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless this wonderful courthouse.
I thought maybe I should identify the representative of our future generations, the young lady that had to walk out. That's my granddaughter, 4 months old. And I did school her before we came here today. I said it was okay if she cried a little bit, if she thought Judge Arcara was getting a little long-winded. And man, she was right on.
We will now be treated to a performance of God Bless America by tenor soloist Joel S. Kumro.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Joel serves on the board of directors and is a singing member of our treasured Buffalo Philharmonic Chorus. We will next hear from the chairman of the Democratic Policy Committee, a distinguished member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, the Western District of New York's true friend, and senior senator from the great state of New York, Senator Charles Schumer. Without Senator Schumer's tireless work in the United States Senate and within, without, and throughout the system, this courthouse would not be standing here today. Senator Schumer.
Thank you very much, and it is such a pleasure and an honor. I'm so proud and honored to be part of this ceremony today. I want to thank Chief Judge Jacobs, who presides over the Second Circuit with intelligence and dignity and grace. I want to thank a member of our Second Circuit, Judge Wesley, and I was proud to support you and cross party lines, and I hope we can get back to that in the United States Senate the way we used to. I want to thank the two men who were indomitable here and never let us forget the need for this courthouse and just did it with strength and joy and grace. And they are Judge Skretny and Judge Arcara. Thank you. And everyone else here today, there are two other people I want to mention, one of whom hovers over this. This is a grand piece of architecture. And the person who taught the federal government to think grandly once again when it came to architecture was my predecessor and mentor, who is smiling as he looks down from heaven upon us today, and that is Daniel Patrick Moynihan. And so thank you, Senator Moynihan, lifting us to a higher standard. And one other person, when we began this quest in 2002, I had a great partner. He had been wishing and dreaming for this for a long time, and he is here today, and I think he certainly deserves to be acknowledged and thanked, and that is my friend, Congressman John LaFalce. So it's fantastic to see the new federal courthouse shining like a beacon in downtown Buffalo. At long last, the second largest city in the great state of New York has a federal courthouse that fits the bill. And so, if the judges will pardon me, because I've always wanted to do this, with the ceremonial dedication fully underway, I'm thrilled to say the Buffalo Federal Courthouse is now in session. We always, Brian, myself, John, Kathy, lifetime appointment, pretty good. Well, you can understand my excitement to knock this gavel and hear it echo through this courtroom, because today's official opening has been a long time coming here in Buffalo. Getting to this point has not always been the easiest path, but I've always known that the courthouse would be a game changer for downtown Buffalo. That vision, that promise was always the light at the end of the tunnel that kept all of us going. The building is not only an architectural gem, but it's a real shot in the arm for Buffalo's downtown. It's amazing that this began a full decade ago in 2002, when John and I started the fight in Congress to set this project in motion. We got federal sign-off on the project, and then we went to work to get the funding to make the courthouse a reality. It took $142 million in federal funds when all is said and done, but look around. Every penny was well worth it. This was a smart investment that's already begun to pay back its weight in gold by creating a magnet that's going to attract more jobs and new economic activity to downtown Buffalo. And now this project, like most, hit bumps in the road. We know that. And as Administrator Pease can tell us, the GSA looks at the need and they form a list. And finally, Buffalo made it to the top of the list. Our judges remember this. But it's sort of in the Senate like a barrel of crabs. One crab is finally about to get out, and all the other crabs reach up to pull the crab back in the barrel. Well, judges, we made it out of the barrel. After clearing those hurdles and a decade of hard work by everyone standing here with us today, and Judge Arcara was right to read that long list. It was generous and thoughtful of you and deserved by all those you mentioned. We've officially swung open the courthouse doors, and justice for Western New York will be served up right here in Buffalo. I cannot say enough about the hard work again of the judges, Arcara and Skretny. They are just amazing. And now that the design and construction are complete, I am working, along with my colleague Senator Gillibrand, on an effort to have this courthouse named as soon as possible after one of the most famous Western New Yorkers that we have known. We have introduced Senate legislation to name this federal courthouse after Robert H. Jackson, the distinguished Supreme Court justice raised in Jamestown, famous for his role as chief prosecutor in the international Nuremberg trials. And the legislation would accompany House legislation introduced by my friend, Congressman Higgins. Robert Jackson began his legal career in a Jamestown firm, went on to serve as the Solicitor General, Attorney General, and U.S. Supreme Court Justice, in addition to his role in Nuremberg. The Buffalo Courthouse stands as a new pillar of the Buffalo community, serving justice throughout Western New York, and it should honor all that Jackson has accomplished through his long career in public service. Naming this courthouse after the Honorable Robert Jackson would be like icing on the cake for the opening of this fantastic building. Both are true shining gems. I'm confident the name will be official in the near future. And I know that Robert Jackson would also be speechless and honored by this architectural marvel that will be named after him. This 10-story building here in Niagara Square, with its curved shape and use of glass throughout the structure, is truly and amazingly striking. from the veil of glass panels suspended over the ellipse's beige precast concrete, and the words of the United States Constitution etched in the glass pavilion, the sight is amazing. It makes your hair stand on end. The courthouse continues in the grand tradition of having outstanding architecture of each generation make Buffalo its home. And each and every day, jurors, families, judges, and employees will ride up the 10-story building in the elevator, and they'll look out at an unparalleled view of the entire city. It's absolutely breathtaking. You know, it's too bad that they say justice is blind, because this courthouse and its view of Buffalo are just beautiful. The facility is a symbol of hard work and dedication that Buffalo can and should be proud of, and I know it will be standing here for decades and decades to come. Thank you.
Our next speaker is one of the Western District of New York's greatest friends, Congressman Brian Higgins, United States Representative for the 27th District of the state of New York. Without Congressman Higgins' sustained and dogged efforts in the United States House of Representatives and the key committees and subcommittees to keep the funding for our project alive, there would be no new courthouse, plain and simple. Congressman Higgins.
So Justice Jackson lives. My colleague in Congress, Kathy Hochul, in the short time that she's been here in Congress, she has been a great advocate for this project, not only its naming, but its successful opening. And Kathy, thank you very, very much on behalf of a grateful community. Mayor Byron Brown, thank you for your leadership. This is a major project relative to the continued build-out of downtown Buffalo. When you look at the extraordinary work of the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, the extraordinary work of the Buffalo waterfront, and we're finally going to get a peace bridge with the leadership of Senator Schumer and Governor Cuomo. All this stuff is coming together to create a new dynamic economy right here in Buffalo and Western New York. So Senator Schumer has been a warrior for Western New York. He's been a voice of conviction and clarity for the nation. So Senator, thank you very much for your leadership. I also want to take a moment to recognize an individual who is from my ancestral home, not only of Ireland, but also of South Buffalo. He is the Dean of the Federal Judiciary here in Western New York. He's an extraordinary individual, and I wanted to recognize the Honorable Justice John Curtin. To Justice Arcara and Skretny, they're not only great jurists, they're good guys. They're good guys. And they instilled in all of us in the federal legislature the importance of doing this project a long time ago. I'll give you a story. It was about a year ago. I was getting ready to leave my house on Morgan Road in South Buffalo for the airport to go to Washington. Knock on the door, and a gentleman says, "Mr. Skretny wants to see you." I'm thinking to myself, good Lord, Federal Judge Skretny, this can't be good. I go out, it's Bill Skretny's father. 94 years old. He's in the driveway. I said, "Mr. Skretny, who are you?" "Very well, Congressman, I want to talk to you." "About what?" "The federal courthouse." He says, "My son says that you're trying to be helpful." I said, "I am, and he's doing a great, great job, Mr. Skretny. You have a lot to be proud of." He said, "Are you doing all you can?" I said, "I think I am." He said, "Well, I'll ask my son, and if you're not, I'll be back." Bill Skretny's dad didn't make it to this day, but just a wonderful man. He was a municipal worker in Buffalo, and it's what a beautiful American dream. You know, one generation sacrificing for the next. And he was so proud of the fact that he had a son that became a lawyer and a federal court judge. So, Bill Skretny, this more than anything else is your day, and we thank you for your leadership. We thank you for your friendship. Just a little civics lesson about the difficulty in the House getting this stuff done. As Judge Arcara and Skretny know, it's very difficult to get a project of this magnitude done because of the competition. Now, there are 94 federal districts in the United States. They all want a new courthouse, all of them. But Buffalo, because of its space needs, was identified by the federal judiciary as the highest priority and kept getting passed over and passed over. They built courthouses in California and Texas and everywhere else but Buffalo. So I finally figured this thing out. You'll never learn this from a political science book. Here's the deal. To get a courthouse, you need both an authorization from the appropriated committee, that being the House Transportation Committee, and you need an appropriation from the Appropriations Committee. So my friend, former chair of the House Transportation Committee from Minnesota, Jim Oberstar, I went to him and I said, Mr. Chairman, my community, despite being the #1 priority in the entire nation, continues to get bypassed. I need your help. It's not my priority, it's the judiciary's priority. So Jim Oberstar said, I'll look into it. I figured that was the end of that discussion. A couple of days later, he called back. He said, Brian, you're right. He said, you're right. I said, how are you going to be able to help me? He said, we won't. See, they typically ask for an authorization for more courthouses than they have money for. So then it leaves the president and the administration to select what courthouses they do. So Jim Oberstar says, we're going to authorize one courthouse. In 2007, the United States Congress, the United States House, authorized the construction of one courthouse, and that was the Buffalo Federal Courthouse in 2007. So I want to thank Chairman Oberstar. But finally, this is more so than anything else a day of thanks. You know, I give thanks to you for the extraordinary opportunity that you give me to represent this community in the United States Congress. We give thanks to the federal judges here, particularly to Judge Skretny and Arcara, for the good work that they do and the good work that they will continue to do, only for the community and the country that they love. And finally, we give thanks to a good and generous nation, a good and generous nation that makes this day and all of our days possible. Thank you for.
Our next speaker is the founding design partner of Cohen Pedersen Fox Associates, one of the world's preeminent architecture firms. I think you will agree that overwhelming evidence of his creative genius surrounds us all here today. He is a man of great humility, a true collaborator in every sense of the word, and a gentleman Judge Arcara and I are proud to call our friend, our design architect, William Pedersen.
Thank you, Chief Judge Skretny. How can you be so insensitive to show that building to someone from Buffalo? Those were the first words that were ever spoken to me by Judge Skretny. The place was the GSA headquarters in New York. We were there interviewing for this project. And at that time, I thought the prospect of speaking to you today was so remote that it wasn't even conceivable. After the longest pause, he broke out with this enormous smile. And it's been like that ever since, and that was in 2000. We have done 4 GSA federal courthouses. And what I want to say is that the GSA has contributed to architecture in the United States, to the judicial architecture in the United States, so much through their Design Excellence program. Everyone we've worked with at the GSA has been extraordinarily dedicated to create great architecture. And it's not always easy to do. We've also worked with great federal judges. And the one common denominator from Portland to Minneapolis to New York to Buffalo is the tremendous dedication of these individuals and the belief that architecture actually matters. And that, as a foundation for the beginning of a design process, is so important. But there's one aspect of this relationship that was maybe a little different than the others. And that really was the issue of humor. I've already alluded to Chief Judge Skretny's sense of humor, which you all probably know as well as I. Judge Arcara is not to be outdone. But let me say, before we talk about humor, Judge Arcara came to one of our design meetings after having been in New York, having walked around Columbus Circle. As you know, in Columbus Circle, that new building, the Time Warner building, has that nice concave surface. And he said to me, "Don't you think you could put a curve on the inside of that building?" He was absolutely right. And the curve that you see on our south wall is a product of his thinking, and we thank you for it. But we were working in the final stages of the design, and we're doing this. You've seen that little stainless steel art piece that's in the courtyard down below? It's right next to Bob's wonderful piece. And we showed it, Judge Skretny and Judge Arcara, the model of it, and Judge Arcara became really excited. So that's really terrific. And at that time, I really wanted to take credit for the design, but frankly, I hadn't designed it. A young man in our office had designed it, and he said, "I want to meet that young man." So we went and came out, and he congratulated him, and then he said, "I want you to tell your boss, that's me, to give you a raise." Well, you'll be happy to know that we did, and he's one of our senior people right now. So thank you again. Well, the last time I spoke to an assembled group in relationship with this project was at the groundbreaking. It was terrible weather that day. I don't know if you remember. And a lot of the special people, Senator Schumer, had a hard time getting in, as I recall. And someone had the idea, well, then maybe you could just sort of warm up the crowd with a little conversation, you know. But it felt like a sports announcer during a rain delay. Well, fortunately today, I don't have to tell you anything about the building, because hopefully the building speaks for itself. But one of the things that I think of at the end of a project, because these projects are difficult. In the movie industry, they talk about the making of a movie is like a war. And after the war's over, the critics come in to finish off the survivors. It was difficult, but we had a wonderful time. And all of us, all of the survivors here that worked on the project, really want to give their thanks to these gentlemen here who made this project possible. Because while we didn't work directly together, you know, making these buildings happen is one part design and construction and about 10 parts on the other side of the equation. So thank you very much. We hope this building serves you very well over a great number of years. And for us, it was a tremendous pleasure to participate.
Our final speaker is the 58th mayor of the city of Buffalo, Byron W. Brown. Together with former Mayor Anthony Masiello and the Buffalo Common Council. Mayor Brown enabled us to secure this prime location on Niagara Square and lead the surge of economic development currently underway throughout the downtown corridor. He has been a strong and unwavering proponent of our courthouse project, and we are very grateful for his support. Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Chief Judge Skretny, for your very kind comments. As mayor of the city of Buffalo, I'm certainly very honored to be with all of you today and see so many turn out for this magnificent new $142 million federal courthouse formal dedication. I can tell you, in my State of the City address a few months ago, I talked about the importance of the courthouse, and I said that this beautiful new building would be much more than just a brick and mortar addition to downtown Buffalo Central Business District. It would yet be another powerful sign of progress and positive change that is taking place in the city of Buffalo. Currently, there is more than $750 million of construction activity taking place in downtown Buffalo alone. And we are very proud of the investment that is taking place in the city of Buffalo. And this courthouse building certainly is a tremendous example of that investment. There's a healthy buzz about Buffalo, and potential investors from all over the country and internationally are taking a much closer look at what Buffalo has to offer. I am pleased that our efforts with the highly effective Western New York congressional delegation led by our senior senator, Charles Schumer, and the great members of Congress, Congressman Higgins and Hochul and former Congressman LaFalce, contributed to this remarkable development, one of the largest federal projects completed in Western New York. I can tell you, for me, when times get tough and things are frustrating, and you heard about some of the frustrations with this project. You heard at times it looked like this project would not be completed. At times of frustration from me, I'm able to derive strength and information and inspiration from my partner at home, my wife, Michelle Brown. I want to recognize the partners of Judges Skretny and Arcara, Mrs. Skretny and Mrs. Arcara, who are with us today. I know as the last speaker, I better be brief. This was a long but beautiful ceremony. And there are many people, as you heard, who are so deserving of credit for this tremendous development in downtown Buffalo. But I again want to recognize two visionary leaders, Judge Skretny and Judge Arcara, for their tireless efforts on this project. I want to thank the judges, Judge Skretny and Arcara, for their tremendous dedication, their persistence, and their unwavering commitment to getting this federal courthouse built. If it was not for the efforts of Judges Skretny and Arcara, we would not be in this building right now today. So judges, thank you for what you have done. Thank you for your commitment to the law, your commitment to justice, and your commitment to the city of Buffalo. Thank you all very much.
On behalf of the General Services Administration, Chief Judge Jacobs, Judge Arcara, and all of our judges and court family, I thank you for joining us in this historic dedication ceremony.